Hi guys, welcome back to the Real Talk with Rhi podcast. I am your host, Rhi, and today we are talking about quite a specific topic. I'm not sure I've talked about this on any of my channels before, but we are talking about surprising benefits and life skills that kids in general, most kids can benefit from these things, but specifically I'm going to be thinking about children on the autism spectrum and these life skills and benefits that they can pick up from performing. I'm thinking specifically about dance classes, drama, that kind of thing. Just to give you a little bit of context, I danced a lot when I was younger, so I feel a lot of the benefits from the shows and things in my adult life. And it's only now through seeing my children, so my girls dance, I've got two little girls, both of them dance. They recently did a show. My eldest has always been in performing and things, has done loads and loads of performances and shows. My second child's youngest son, Will, has recently performed in a school production. And it's really got me thinking about there's just so many different things that you wouldn't even think of that can really help, say, all children, but specifically children on the spectrum, with a lot of things that they might otherwise struggle with. And it's a lot of life skills you can't necessarily pick up anywhere else. So with that being said, we're going to dive straight in. So let's start with the obvious, specifically dancing, more so than acting really. There's going to be the physical fitness benefits. So there's getting in a bit of exercise and all the health benefits that this can have. And learning from a young age that exercise can be fun, not something that's a chore. If as you get into adulthood, then you can fit in some sort of movement into your life that works for you, that isn't a chore, obviously that's an excellent thing. So the physical fitness kind of goes without saying, but I felt I needed to say it, I guess. Obviously then hand in hand with the increase in physical activity, there are mental health benefits, increased endorphins, things like that, just the general benefits of exercise. Now, there can be improvements in working memory with things specifically like dance and drama. So there's learning lines, there's learning routines. And if I think back to my own dancing that I did for years and years and years and years, like every night of the week as I was growing up, we'd always have like a big break over the summer. And then we'd go back in September and it's like I couldn't pick things up quite as quickly. Then a few weeks in, I'd pick up routines much faster, even like brand new routines we were learning. And it just sort of goes to show that the more you do things, the quicker you can pick things up. So the more you kind of use your memory, the more you challenge your memory, I guess it's like a muscle, then the easier you find things to pick up. So learning routines, learning lines can have these benefits for children that I'm sure would then reflect in schoolwork and things like that because they are improving their memory. Obviously, there is an element of discipline involved with performing. It can be good to have other adults in your children's life other than just you and their teacher that they also look up to. They're generally doing dance and drama because it's something they really enjoy, which means that they're enjoying it, so they're likely to respect the person that is asking them to behave or stand in lines or whatever and take that discipline from them. I know discipline varies a lot from dance school to dance school. So the girls' dance school is very chill. They do have a uniform. They don't necessarily have to wear it. Hair isn't too strict. I know some dance schools still are. Back when I was in dance school when I was younger, it was like I would not have gone into a ballet class with a hair out of place. It would not have happened. We had one jazz teacher especially that everyone adored, but we were all terrified of her. So we just, you wouldn't have had an item of clothing out of place to go into that jazz class. It just wouldn't have happened because we were terrified, but in a good way. That sounds really strange, doesn't it? We were terrified in a good way, but we were. And I think that discipline kind of, especially as you go into teen years, can be really, really beneficial. So it's the having to show up to rehearsals because you're working towards a show, the discipline of having to show up at classes and the discipline of having to learn things. I just think it can be really beneficial. It's just a life skill that obviously transfers to other elements of school and then ultimately work as you get older. There is good routine in a general sense when you're talking about dance and drama in that, it'll be Tuesday at this o'clock that they'll go to the lessons. The routine then gets challenged a bit more when it comes closer to showtime. and I know children, specifically my children with autism, struggle with change of routine. But I think in areas like this, where it's a show that they're excited to work towards, it's something that they're loving. Working with things, quite a lot of the things we're going to talk about actually, but it's like putting little micro challenges in their path in a safe and comfortable way with something they're really also excited about. I talked about this a lot when I did my episode about surprising benefits of theme parks for children with autism. I would like to just sort of have a little sort of disclaimer that obviously it's going to depend on your specific child with autism. What I'm talking about won't apply to every single child. It's a spectrum. I'm kind of talking, I suppose, about the benefits I see for my children with autism. And I understand you've met one person with autism. You've just met one person with autism. You cannot generalize at all. But my children who have, it's not nice to add labels really, is it? But just to sort of explain how it is, they have, I guess, what would be labelled as high functioning autism, as in they have certain struggles, but largely manage on a day-to-day basis. And I really think that so many of these things benefit them so much, and still would, even if they were neurotypical, I'm absolutely sure. So they have this routine of weekly lessons, which is what we're going to get back to. My ADHD brain bouncing back and forth just right here. The routine of weekly lessons, but also this stretch of, okay, so now there's going to be, dancing's going to be on a different night. The lesson's going to be a bit longer. We wouldn't normally go here for rehearsal on a Sunday, but we are. And that kind of putting these little challenges into the children's lives in a really manageable way, I feel is important, because as a mum, I want to shield them from all difficulty. So if they like routine, I want to give them all the routine. But the realistic part of my brain knows that as they get older, and I'm no longer able to totally shield them from everything, as they go to secondary school, which my second child and youngest son now has, there are going to be challenges I can't protect them from. As they go to university, like my eldest has, there are things I can't protect them from, It's trying to prepare them for these challenges that they will ultimately face without me, because I'm not with them in school, or I'm not with my eldest in university. And I feel that by nurturing the little ones through these challenges in kind of a safe and fun way, hopefully it prepares them. So the girls were recently in this show. I opted to volunteer to be a dresser backstage. A few reasons for this. Number one, I knew that backstage can be very chaotic, and I wanted to make sure that my girls were happy, that we're not having big feelings, as we call it, that weren't being noticed. My girls especially mask quite a lot if they're not with people that they're really, really comfortable with. So I wanted to be there to make sure that they were all right. And I feel that that was a good, safe transition. Perhaps as they get older and they've done a lot more shows and they don't want me to be there backstage to help dress, and they can manage that situation themselves, that will be the next sensible step. But for now, I was really, really glad I was there. And I wanted the backstage experience to be wonderful for them, because it really can be. If you've ever performed, shout out in the comments if you're watching on YouTube, or you're going to have to just DM me if you're listening on the podcast, because it doesn't seem to be a good way to chat, is there, when you're just listening on the podcast. But if you're watching on YouTube, let me know down in the comments. Did you ever do any performances as a kid, growing up, dance, drama, any of that kind of thing? And do you agree with me in that the backstage element and the kind of the teamwork and camaraderie, and that's just so much a part of it, almost as much as actually being on the stage. I find that my dancing friends were my closest friends, and I'm still in touch with lots of them. Dancing friends are friends for life. And I was never like a team sports kind of person, but I guess a lot of the stuff I'm saying would probably apply to doing team sports, that kind of thing too. And it's just about placing children in a situation that's not super uncomfortable, because let's face it, you don't want them to be horribly uncomfortable. But like leading up to the show, the girls were all, I'm a little bit nervous. And if they hadn't been in that situation where they had to face those nerves, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to chat to them and say, well, we can feel like this as grown-ups as well. Grown-ups doing these things that they haven't done before can feel really, really nervous. And what we need to think about is, when you feel nervous or worried, feels in your body very, very similar to the way it feels when you're excited, in that your tummy goes a bit like it's got butterflies in it. Maybe your palms are a bit sticky, maybe your heart's racing a bit more. And really, whether we decide to identify that as worried, anxious, or nervous, or decide to rebrand that as I'm feeling excited, that's up to us. So I was saying to all the girls backstage, actually, not, I'm one little boy, so all girls, the children backstage, I was saying to them all, if we're nervous, are we nervous or are we excited? Can we rebrand this? And that then translates to just stuff we have to do as grown-ups. The first time you're starting a new job and you're having to go and meet new people, and it's really, really nerve-wracking. You have to make a presentation at work, or even when your child starts school and you've got to meet all the new parents and you're just like, oh no, I'm the new kid at school. It's using these extracurricular activities to teach the children these life skills. Hopefully they'll carry forward into adulthood just by putting them gently out of their comfort zone and then kind of being able to help them through it. Another benefit obviously can be working towards an end goal. This goes for shows and things like that. So if, we had the shows in June for the girls, and we'd known about it all year, and they talk about the show, and it's like building up and then organising costumes and then working towards this specific goal. Will, I said to my son, was in his school production and loved it. I was super proud of him. He was amazing. But he had worked so hard. He'd done the audition, he'd got his part, he'd worked really hard on doing his lines and things like that. And then he wasn't feeling 100%. And he was like, but Mum, I really don't want to miss it. I've worked so hard. I don't want to let anyone down. And obviously I didn't want him to be ill. I didn't want him to be struggling through. But the fact that he had that kind of that work ethic about it meant so much to him. And he wanted to do his best to get well, to get in there. And as it happens, he took some medicine, he drank absolutely loads of fluids, and he was great. He felt better. But he had that kind of desire to really stick to it and see something through, and to complete it and do the performance, to pay off for all the hard work. And that was just really, really lovely. Obviously, there are going to be issues with sensory things for a lot of children with autism to deal with when doing shows. There might be new costumes to deal with. Maybe they're itchy. Maybe the lighting will be warm. Obviously, the newer theatres, I think the lighting is a lot better. But I think if you've got a much older theatre, lights are hot. Stage lights are hot. Loud noises, sensory issues, maybe the smoke machines. But dealing with these things, seeing as they kind of get built upon leading towards the performance, and learning to cope with them can just really help, I think, field children to build resilience. And again, I'm not suggesting you put any child with autism in a situation where it's sensory elements they can't cope with. But it's almost like introducing things in very small doses. A costume, okay, well, how can we adjust this and make this work for you? And, just minimize any sensory issues, but still get on and wear it. Introducing those tiny little sensory issue, overcome it. Little sensory issue, overcome it. I feel can be more beneficial than shielding them from absolutely everything. And then as soon as they're out of your sight and they're in school, having to deal with something for the first time and not being able to. Obviously, there's the increased confidence and public speaking element. There are lots of elements within schools these days, and certainly within GCSEs and things, if you're in the UK with exams, where there are oral elements to exams. So if you do a French exam, or we live in Wales, they have to do a Welsh oral exam. I don't know if they do speaking elements in the GCSE exams in English anymore. I'm not sure, but definitely within the languages. Obviously, if you do drama in school as a GCSE. So there are actual academic things that have to be presentations for. Often in university, if you go on to higher education, you'd have to do a presentation as part of a subject, even if you have not taken a performance subject. And how many times have people had to do presentations in work? And if you've done performance as a child, as a kid, having to stand up in a meeting doesn't feel as stressful or as strenuous or as scary as if you've never performed, you've never stepped on stage. If that just feels quite natural for you, even if you never go into a performance role, then those bits of your job where you have to do a little bit of a performance and, present to a room or anything, even have client meetings, then it's going to prepare you for that. It's really going to help those skills. I also feel that it helps to demystify exams. So this is more like a specific, like a dancing exam kind of thing. But I remember one of the girls was going to do a dance exam, and my husband was like, "Oh, don't call it an exam. It'll stress her out." And I said, "Well, why would it stress her out? Because she doesn't really know what an exam is. She's in primary school. She's done exams. If we can associate the word exam with a dancing thing where, yeah, okay, there's a little bit more pressure in the normal class. They'd have the hair done and they're trying to get all the uniform perfect, ready to go in. And then traditionally there'd be an examiner, they'd ring a little bell and you'd run in and you'd do your dance in front of an examiner. These last few dance exams that my girls have done have been online. Since COVID, a lot of them have been pre-filmed and sent to an examiner, which is a bit strange. It's a shame because the actual process of having an in-person examiner, I think, is an experience in itself, and having someone to perform to, which is a totally separate issue since COVID. But I just think a lot more things have moved online. But that experience, which is largely enjoyable because they're going to do something they love, which is dancing, and yes, it's called an exam. I know personally I'd done so many exams, as in dancing exams, by the time I sat my actual exams, I was totally unbothered by exams. I did not get stressed by them. They did not spin me out. Was that totally because I'd done dancing exams before? I don't know. Or was that something about me as a teenager? That's probably a topic for another day. But I think it helps to be like, rather than hiding them from, like, don't call an exam in case it stresses them out, being like, oh, an exam is a fun and positive thing. And then you've got those emotions tied to the word exam. Oh, fun and positive thing. Something I worked towards, I practiced for, I did on the day, I did my best, and then afterwards I got my results. And I think a lot of the pressure put on kids for exams are because they're kind of marketed, they're positioned as this stressful thing. So hopefully doing other exams can make like the real exams, the GCSEs and things, a lot less scary. I touched on dancing friends are friends for life, but I definitely think that the social bonds you can have, especially backstage in a show, dancing shows I'd find would be kind of with the same people. So you'd work with the same people you're in classes with anyway, you just have really strong bonds with them. School productions are slightly different because you end up mixing with people you'd never normally mix with within your own school. So you'd mix with people from different year groups that you've never mixed with before, different classes that you've never mixed with before. And I think that can be just really, really valuable to widen your friendship groups, especially with people with similar interests. There's a massive teamwork element backstage in shows. If you've ever been backstage in shows and there's like a quick change, and I got to see Bella, who's my 9-year-old, do this with her friends. So I was helping dress with all of the girls really, but more with Zara's group, who are 6 and 7, most of the girls in Zara's group. And I was there kind of on hand for Bella, but it was lovely to see how her group, who are more 8 and 9, some of them nearly 10, how they all worked together. They were like, oh, let me just fix your hair, and oh, let me sort your glove, and right, you got everything. And it was just lovely to see how beautifully they worked together. Just such lovely skills that they're developing. Just it was really beautiful to see how they kind of took care of each other. It's really nice to also see, especially probably not Zara's group, but Bella's group, who like the 9-year-olds were like looking at the running order, like, okay, right, we've got 2 dances till we're on next. We've got 2 dances till we're on next. We're we're on in 2 dances. We've got this long to get changed. Who's on next? And just looking at the running order, planning ahead, seeing how long they have, and just that buzz of excitement, but also planning ahead, lining up their costumes. Right, it's this costume, then this costume, then this costume. Like, how long have we got for this quick change? Right, if we put that leotard on under this one, then under this, I think she had like an all-in-one thing. So they're like, right, okay, if we put the leotard on under that'll be quicker for the next change. So it's like problem-solving skills and planning and organisation and working together. And these are just fantastic life skills to develop that, let's face it, we need in whichever job you're ever going to do as an adult. One of the biggest lessons, though, I think that you can get from performing is the having to carry on when something goes a bit wrong. Not letting things get to you when things go a bit wrong, and carrying on anyway. So like your hat comes off and the instant thing is like, oh no, my hat came off and everyone saw and it's awful. But actually, no, keep smiling. It's fine. Going to keep performing. It doesn't matter. And thinking, do you know what? Something went wrong, but it doesn't matter. I'm not going to let that get to me. I'm going to keep going. And not allowing the fear of something going wrong stopping you from doing things like getting up and performing. So I am in like a business group coaching mentorship program, and a lot of us women in business who are all adults have these concerns about what if something goes wrong? What if people don't like this? What if this happens? So these are concerns that we still all have as adults. So if as a child you can learn, to start developing these skills that if you're in the middle of performance and something happens, doesn't matter, I'm not going to let it get to me, I'm going to keep going. How great could it be if we can remember that as adults? How amazing. If something goes wrong in work, I'm not going to let it get to me, I'm not going to lose sleep over it, I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to let things drag me down. So it's just these things I think are really valuable life lessons, especially for my children with autism who want everything to be so perfect and are so hard on themselves. And I would love for them to be super kind to themselves and super, like it doesn't matter if things go wrong, but I see them when they're doing their homework and there's a mistake made and they really struggle. I'm like, darling, it's okay. It doesn't matter. And they get so stressed. But in this show environment, it's so bustling, it's so exciting that, if something does go wrong, someone goes to stand in your place on the stage and you're supposed to be standing there and it doesn't matter, you just stand next to them and carry on. And then you get through it and you realise you're okay, then yeah, amazing life lesson. Stuff you can't necessarily pick up anywhere else. Probably team sports. I'd say if you've ever played team sports, would you say that similar life lessons come from things like that? Please do let me know in the comments. Never have been a sporty kind of girly ever, unfortunately. But I would imagine it's a similar type of thing. I would say there's a massive sense of accomplishment. Certainly when you get like exam results from doing dancing or drama exams, or when you finished a show and you get to, you hear the applause, or you watch things back on, used to be, a VHS or DVD, or now it'll be like on some sort of streamed version or digital version of the show. But the girls watching back and seeing how well they'd done, it's just that sense of accomplishment they felt and how proud I was of them and how proud they were of themselves is massive. And just the pure fun and joy of being in the moment, I think we could all do with a little bit more of that. So if your children were thinking about performing, obviously it can be taken from any kind of degree, from super chill right across to Dance Moms, which I've only seen clips of that show. Is it worth watching? I don't know. Perhaps for entertainment value. I would never want to be that pushy with them. I only want them to do as much as they enjoy and as much as they are benefiting from it. But I think if you can find that balance in the middle where they are working towards something, they're slightly out of their comfort zone because it's like, oh, I'm feeling a little bit nervous, and then realising that they can get through that, enjoy it, and it can be okay, then I would say that every child can benefit from that, especially if your child is shy, especially if your child has autism. Massive amounts of life learning, which in lots of ways is far more important than maths, English or geography, because these are life skills. These are life skills that they'll need, every day of their lives. And I do feel that the resilience they can build up through dance, drama and performing can be massive. So that's my little take on dance, drama and performing, and why it can be so massively beneficial for children. So if you think these things may apply to your children, I would recommend just speaking to other people in your area for recommendations for places that they go. It will depend on what you want for your child, or whether you want somewhere with a lot more discipline or you want somewhere quite chilled. Dance schools, drama schools will vary massively place to place. Take a look at their website, take a look at their social media, and check if there are any taster sessions available. Generally, there will be taster sessions available before you have to sign up for anything at all. If your dance, drama schools locally have shows coming up, buy tickets and go and watch the shows and see what they're like, and then you can see if that's something your child would be interested in eventually being in, that kind of thing. But do your research, look into it. But for me, I would say it's highly, highly beneficial. if it's something that your child is interested in doing. So thanks for tuning into another episode of Real Talk with Rhi. Rate and review on the podcast, like and subscribe on the channel. There's another video on screen if you're watching the video version. Click on there or check out my Patreon for some early release content. I'll see you guys soon. Mwah.